Hi everyone, Situationship here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Olivia Rodrigo record, Guts. This is the highly anticipated sophomore album from singer and songwriter, actress as well, Olivia Rodrigo, who made a huge break into the music industry back in 2021 with the viral multi-platinum ballad Driver's License, which eventually led to the release of her debut album, Sour, a pretty landmark record for the 2020s pop landscape, contributing hugely to the commercial renaissance pop punk is seeing at the moment. This project showed a lot more substance than many naysayers crying industry plant assumed it would, given Olivia's age at the time and also her history as being a Disney alum. And since Sour became the success that it was, Olivia has been super strategic in terms of when she steps into the limelight. In fact, this latest album cycle is running almost like a more old school rollout, with a lot of carefully planned promotion and single drops. The first track we heard from this album was Vampire, which I think said a lot about the direction this record was most likely to head in. The bitter lyrics, the somber pianos, the hushed singing, which led to these grand, gradually escalating piano rock passages. This thing didn't just feel like a new song, it was the trailer to a blockbuster teen flick sequel, with all your favorite characters coming back and also the same director that nailed it last time around too. Which is to say, this album is absolutely positively not a departure from what Olivia was doing on Sour. In fact, I would say on this LP, her and producer Dan Nigro are embracing even more those girly, rebellious pop punk vibes that did so well on the last record, occasionally cutting those with the sad and romantically tragic piano ballads that also did incredibly well on the last record. But from the cover to the production to the song topics, a lot of what is on this album feels like a callback to Sour, which makes this project feel like an exercise in seeing just how far Olivia and Dan can expand, mature, and push these sounds. And also clearly define them as a calling card for Olivia. I mean, the first track on this thing is literally an attempt at a self-portrait of sorts, with Olivia posing herself as an all-American bitch, and exploring this kind of weird yin and yang dynamic within herself, acknowledging that yes, she is pretty and marketable in ways that make her an American icon or a starlet of sorts, but also she is internally suffering, fixating on dark things, and maybe a little emotionally volatile too. This contrast comes across in the instrumental itself too, with some pretty acoustic arpeggios that kick the song off that sound like something from a Weezer album or two, which of course switch off on the chorus into these really crunchy pop punk guitar passages, which are seriously raw, and that's also the case for Olivia's vocals on this track, from the shouty choruses to the hype group screams on the bridge that sound like a bunch of people on a roller coaster hitting a loop. But yeah, this track all around, strong intro, and there are some even stronger cuts to follow from here. Like Bad Idea Right, which is a really repetitive set of rock riffs, set to some talk-sung vocals, with Olivia going on about how she's all fucked up and kind of hung up on an ex who she had some good times with at one time, and she's considering seeing him again. And the internal battle going on within this track is pretty funny, with intensifying repeats of "Seeing you tonight, it's a bad idea, right?" with these cheerleader-style chants shouting out, "Yes, I know that he's my ex, but can't two people reconnect? I only see him as a friend, the biggest lie I ever said." Again, feels like 2000s era teen flick vibes all over again, but the humor's maybe just a tad bit smarter. Plus, I love the smooth pop rock passages on the chorus that kind of show Olivia feeling the bliss of giving in to these temptations. My brain goes, There's also Vampire in the first leg of this record, a track that I'm more impressed with the more I listen to it. The formula of this track reads very much like that of Driver's License, but this time around I think we're getting more contrast in the song structure, better singing, more complicated dynamics in the lyrics, more thrills all around. I think it's a great song. Meanwhile, Lacey, I think, is one of the most significant moments on this record, even if it is maybe the softest. But the track does read like a sad, acidic poison slowly eating away at your insides. It's about an obsession and insecurity, and this Lacey person is the object of this. Now, there's not a lot of details on this track about the dynamic between Lacey and Olivia, or how it came about. But what's clear is that it makes Olivia feel almost like nothing. Almost everything with Lacey makes her feel inadequate in some way. And in the case of this song, I think the vagueness about it does work because it is a deeply relatable story, because these same feelings come from a lot of different places for a lot of different people. Though ultimately at the end of the track, Olivia does put the onus for all of this on herself, saying, "Yeah, I despise my rotten mind and how much it worships you." Following this, we are thrown right back into the pop-punk trenches with Ballad of a Homeschooled Girl, which is an explosive, pent-up, and very funny moment on the record where Olivia dives into these feelings of social awkwardness, going as far as to categorize these faux pas and mistakes as social suicide. There's a hefty bit of distortion on the guitars, on the vocals, they're a tad bit fried, but I think it works. It's crispy and blackened, sort of like a grilled cheese you left on the pan for too long, but you only burned the one half, so it's still good. Then Making the Bed rounds out the first half of this record with another strong and heavy ballad, with some decent metaphors going on in the lyrics too. But things do get a little spotty from here in the record's second half, either by way of weak production, like on Love is Embarrassing, whose peppy pop rock guitars and drums do lose some definition in all of the reverb. It kind of sounds like something Jack Antonoff would do on a Bleachers record. And there's a few spots that feel kind of instrumentally redundant on the album too. Logical in the Grudge's sad, dramatic, grand, and almost Swiftian instrumentation does come across as a bit too high gloss and not super specific to this album. Even if I do respect Olivia's commentary on love and forgiveness as being pretty mature and miles ahead of your average 20-something pop songwriter, still there are some bangers on the back end of this thing like Get Him Back, whose instrumental I'm kind of in love with its very fuzzy bass, its head-nodding drum loops, its weird effects. It's kind of psychedelic. It's a little melty. Honestly, there's something about this track that really reminds me of a Butthole Surfer's Pepper, but like if you could make the demographic for it teens on TikTok as opposed to 90s dudes who smoke too much weed. And Olivia's pretty good at telling a story on this track, painting a picture of this guy who's a total dick in about 100 different ways, but she did have good times with him, wishes she could hang out with him again, maybe even fix him, but really the predominant feeling in all of this is wanting to get some kind of revenge, wanting to make him hurt in the same way that she did, and she tells all of this to us in these funny, silly, tongue-in-cheek little semi-rapped verses that go over pretty well. Things begin to soften up and get more personal at the very end of the album with Pretty Isn't Pretty, which is a track about the sad, suffocating, and self-destructive things that young women tend to do in order to hold themselves up to a standard of attractiveness. And while you could read into the lyrics, the title I think makes things pretty obvious, with the effort being put into being pretty ugly, honestly. The hook as well has this bright, blissful hum to it that hits like a bit of 80s nostalgia and takes the edge off of how truly sad the song is a bit. Finally, the closing track, Teenage Dream, finishes things off with more meta commentary just like we got on the opener. And in a way, Olivia seeks to transcend this teenage dream categorization that's been thrown onto her. And for sure, it's a valid and frustrating worry for a creative. But I would also say that her background and who she is, while it does come with its social baggage, it also gives her the capacity to speak directly to certain experiences really well, in an insightful way, in fact, because I can't imagine a lot of these same stories coming across all that well if they were coming from someone like me. I'm no all-American bitch, despite my best efforts. There is kind of a dread-filled cliffhanger right at the very end of the song with Olivia saying, "They all say that it gets better, but what if I don't? 'Cause tomorrow isn't promised, especially when you're in the music industry. Your latest hit could be your last hit." Olivia Rodrigo's next album could very much suck, but that is very much not the state that we are in currently. This album is very much not suck. In fact, I would say it's even better than Sour. I think it's an improvement on everything that record did on all fronts, and I'm feeling a light to decent 8 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Olivia Rodrigo of Forever.